Well, happy Thursday and a New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Eve. I got Jamie on the board there today. Mr. Lopez, how you doing this morning?
Doing pretty good.
Good. And we've got our very nice and very friendly gentleman and friend, Tim McCarn, who is now. Tim, are you in North Carolina? Is that correct?
Hey guys, sorry, I'm getting a little bit of stuttering in the microphone. But I'm here. Good to see you, Paul. Everybody doing well?
Yeah, we're doing very well. So you're in North Carolina, correct? Got a bad link? We'll see if we can get you fixed on that end there, Tim. Tim is unless he's moved recently. Tim is in North Carolina, trying to get to his microphone and speakers and everything adjusted. Now, Tim, I know that. Now, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me now, Tim. So he still can't hear us. I want you to send him another link. See if we can get him connected. So go ahead and disconnect him and send him another link. Hey, that's technology. I mean, that's what it's all about. We got technology. But anyway, it is the Digital Dealer School. Billy Merritt presents. We have got a whole bunch of things that we do every day at 11 o'clock, every weekday at 11. We have people that we invite in on the show to tell you, good things. Now, Thursdays, today being Thursday, it is all about Digital Dealer School or Digital Dealer Academy. I like to call it Academy. It sounds more professional, but Digital Dealer School, Digital Dealer Academy, whichever it may be. It is Digital Dealer School. By the way, typically it is Billy Merritt and Caleb Wilson, but again, I'm filling in for Billy, who is traveling back. His family trip from Jamaica, so they're actually on the way back. He will be back in the office tomorrow. We'll be doing our Feel Good Friday show. Not sure if Billy's going to be on Feel Good Friday. He should be. I mean, if he spent a week, in Jamaica, he should be feeling really good, but maybe not. So anyway, as we wait on Tim, Digital Dealer School, listen, it's the last day of the year. We know that lots of car dealers, you guys out there that are working at car lots, managing car lots, you're trying to get things situated for the end of the year, trying to close out business, all that kind of stuff, getting everybody, good to go. So what you got to do is you got to plan, you got to look back. I mean, now's the time when you look back. Now, I don't mean like sit on your hands and look back at what you did this year. I mean, you got to close up some business today, to close out your year strong. But again, when you have a little bit of downtime, and maybe you'll do that over the weekend, maybe you'll do it, some dealerships are open, some dealerships are closed on New Year's Day. So if you get an opportunity to kind of reflect, think back what you did right, what you did wrong, all that kind of stuff, adjust and adapt. That's what we've been saying here at Billy Merritt Marketing. We've been saying that all year. I mean, 2020 with COVID, with all the different changes. I mean, it's just been absolutely ridiculous. With things that are going on. So people have had to adjust and adapt constantly. In fact, we're going to adjust and adapt right now because Tim is obviously having some major difficulties and we're not able to get him on. We're going to try him one more time with the link. In the meantime, if I could get one of our ninjas, Felipe Tinajero, you back there? Yeah, come on up here, Felipe. You can talk to me here for just a minute. I know you're not dressed appropriately, but you'll be just fine. So make sure you come on over here, get in here on the show. I'll slide over, give you a little bit of room. And again, this is adjust and adapt as we speak. I mean, live here on the show. So Felipe, your experiences, working at a car dealership, what has been your take, if you will, on working in a dealership the last day of the year? What's it like if you on the ground? I mean, what's it like working in a dealership on today?
To me, the last week of the year is probably one of the strongest weeks in the year.
Okay.
Because you're going to sell so many cars this week right here and just follow that momentum up into January. The end of December and January have always been the strongest months or weeks for me in the car business.
Gotcha. So now do you get people, like I'm talking about, not the customers, I'm talking about your salesmen. Do they get excited about the end of the year, or are they kind of going, are they kind of reflecting going, man, I should have done more. I wish I could have done more, or things like that. How's the typical feel at a car lot?
Some people are just there, just dragging it out. I want to go home. I want to see my family. I mean, there's some people, that sold 250, 260 cars that year. Like, I'm going to sell 300 next year.
There you go.
There's just different mindsets all in the dealership. And of course, the strong salesmen, the hammers, they're going to want to continue to push yourself for the next year. And there's some who just wants to get home and party.
Well, I'm now, Tim, by the way, Tim, give me a thumbs up if you can hear us. Okay. All right. Hey, we got Tim good to go now. Tim McCarn. Tim is over in North Carolina. I had Felipe step in and help me out here for a little bit, Tim.
Hey man, I know how to roll with it. We all know how to roll in the car business, right? You just got to go with the flow.
We just adjust and adapt. That's what we've been doing. So what's the weather like over in North Carolina?
Man, Paul, we got rain and cold today. So we got a little stretch of rain, band of rain coming through, and then it's going to warm up tomorrow, going to jump into the 70s. So
tomorrow will be a beautiful day to kick off the new year.
It sure will. It sure will. Big Saturdays too for everybody coming into the weekend. Friday, Saturday could be a good weekend to start the year off right.
Well, Tim, I was just asking Felipe here while you were trying to get everything situated and connected. What's it like? What's been your experience? What's the feel on a car lot on the last day of the year? What's it like?
I think what Felipe said is like, people are just kind of, it's almost like a celebration kind of, wrapping up the year kind of feel, so it's a little bit of, it's not so much edgy, but in the same breath, it just depends on what day it falls on. So if it's getting close to the weekend, stores are amping up. They're getting ready for the big sales meetings for the weekend. They're getting bonuses ready to start the new year. So a good, salespeople too could be amped up, depending on what day it is, But this year, people are just I probably would be kind of like, wrapping up my numbers, looking at my goals, seeing what I did, measuring my year, getting ready for my new measures, my new goals, what I'm going to do this year, what I want to strive for, looking at vision, personal and business. So there's a lot of things probably happening in the minds of a lot of people.
That brings up a good point when you talked about looking at, what's ahead for the new year. We talk a lot about writing our goals down, and so that way you have something to work for, reminds you. And Billy is a big believer of, you write it down and eventually it comes true. I mean, not just, miraculously. It's not like sprinkle the pixie dust and it all happens. You got to work for it. That's for sure. You got to work and sacrifice. But what are some goals, if you don't mind sharing? What are some of your personal goals for 2021?
Yeah, so I've been doing that. That's what I got up early this morning to do. The last 2 days I've been doing that, getting up at 4:30, writing down a lot of things for myself personally. I first start out with person. How can I personally be better or develop? I'm with you. I'm not looking to sprinkle the pixie dust on something, but I'm gonna look at areas of my life through my character, my work ethic, all those things personally. How, I'm married with children. So how well am I going to, how better am I going to be able to treat my wife? And how can I continue to be a better husband? How can I coach my kids better? How can I look at their stages of development this year, their grades of school, et cetera, et cetera. I'm looking at how me personally are going to be able to help them. And then I just dive into other areas, big part, and that goes into spiritual life, what kind of devotion I'm going to put together this year. And then I turn into my work goals, how efficient am I going to be this year? What was it in 2020 that got me distracted? What was it that wasted a little bit of time? How can I be better with my time management? Those are big pieces for me, Paul.
Well, certainly in 2020, there were an awful lot of distractions that nobody could have prepared for. That's for sure. And I had to I had to think and hold myself back from laughing a little bit when you said you were up at 4:30 writing those goals down. And my boy Felipe, I'm sure he was sound asleep at 4:30.
I was snoozing until about 6.
but he's definitely, he writes the goals down though. He's all in. He's just not quite the early bird, maybe that you and I are. But by the way, Felipe, he's helping dealers, so I know he's got to jump back in. Thank you for covering, dude, and thanks for waking up at 6:15 with us, and now he's just gonna leave me hanging.
The thing with him, Paul, too, Felipe's probably staying up to midnight. You and I are probably hitting the pillow earlier than midnight.
That's a very good point. He's definitely the night owl, where I am definitely not the night owl. Yeah, that's absolutely for sure. But again, thanks to Felipe for holding it down while we can get Tim all set up. So Tim, as far as a dealership's goals, when you're writing things down, and obviously with the new year, everybody tends to, if you will, you kind of set grandiose goals. Maybe they're a little bit broader, bigger than what you would have for a weekly goal. But from a dealership's perspective, what should dealers be doing right now as far as like writing goals down or planning their 2021? What would be some advice that you would give a dealership?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I've always done is looked at is how I develop my quarters. I go to, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and I go ahead and kind of put a surface vision to that. What kind of, what's going to be my goals for the store? What am I going to do for the metrics? Or what kind of goals when it comes to variable, when it comes to net? What am I looking to do this year? How am I going? Then is the how to. How am I going to accomplish that? Who is going to help me accomplish those things? Who's going to help me with an area of marketing or strategy that I didn't do last year? What is something new that I can do? Or then how can I add or amp up in areas of my dealership and what I can do to push the variable number? Then I'm going to look at, what's my personnel? What kind of personnel do I have today? And what kind of personnel do I want to have by the end of the year? And how am I going to hire correctly? What kind of strategies I'm going to do to hire, a qualified sales personnel? What am I going to do to train the ones that I have? I'm going to look at every one of those quarters and areas of how I can deposit into my store, into my team, into my people, so that at the end of the year 2021, that we've got somewhere, that we've hit a mark, we've hit a goal, we've pushed and everybody's on board. Every year I always loved, I do this all the time in all of my other areas of stuff that I'm involved with, but I'm big on team concept when it comes to first of the year vision, getting everybody fired up, getting everybody on board. Then after the quarter, come back and revisit what did we do? How did we accomplish it? And what can we do better to go forward in quarter two? So those are just areas I know, Paul, that I've done over the times past. And it's keeping people engaged is the biggest thing. Anybody can get up and write a vision. Anybody can get up and write some goals down.
Sure.
But, the principle of that is write the vision, make it plain, and those that run with it. All right. There's a part of those who run with it. How do I keep people running with the vision? How do I keep them buying into it? And I can't just do it on one speech, one meeting, one hoorah kickoff party. I've got to have a party all year long in order for them to celebrate that and stay with it.
That brings up a good point. How do you keep people engaged, your employees? How do you keep them on board, seeing the vision, working the vision, so that you can actually reach the goal that you have set and plan your work your plan, that type of thing. So when you've got some, for lack of a better word, when you got some guys that are stalling, they're lazy, they're just, they're not bought in, if you will, whether they're getting bored, whether they're whatever it is. A lot of things happen in life and people just get kind of disengaged. So what do you recommend if you're a salesman? So you're not a manager now at this point. If you're a salesman, what are some tips, if you will, that you can say, hey, a regular car salesman, this is something that you can do that will get you back on board. You got any tips for them?
Yeah. Over the years, I sold, my selling years were, I think about 7 years I sold. All right. Mm-hmm. And so at a stretch of that, I was a lead salesperson in a mega store in Charlotte, selling an average of 35 to 40 cars a month. Wow. At those heyday years, we were doing 700 to 800 cars a month. And so to have that kind of traffic, all it took was just getting out on the floor. Mm-hmm. If you were in a little lag or you'd been off for a couple of days or something had come up, you had to get back into the pipeline, so to speak. And so I think that's the biggest piece, is that we're all going to have a salesperson, it's the highs and the lows, and being able to find the in between, find the steady Freddy, as I call it. And so you got to be able to measure that low moment where you feel like, all right, man, I'm not getting anywhere. My last 2 checks have just been, what in the world, so, but I can't get down on that. I got to know that there's something else that I've got to do. And I always say, load the cart. It's always load the cart, load the cart, load the cart. And so I remember in those times when I was selling, maybe I started the month out slow. I knew though that my numbers would come as long as I stayed in my work ethic. All right, my plan. Back then, Paul, we had those daily planners. The binder planners. And you had to write your phone calls down, and you had to make smile and dial. You had to your cold calls, your follow ups, and your birthdays, and all that good stuff. And so I knew that if I stayed to the plan, eventually the numbers and the units were going to be there. And I think that's the encouraging point, is that stay to the plan. You're going to get the highs and the lows. You're going to get, you're going to get the part where you're just straight crapped out, right? You're going to get the kitchen meeting out on the lot where, 3 or 4 of them are sitting there talking about how bad it is and this and that. You got to eliminate the distractions. You got to shut down the noise. You got to motivate yourself. All right. And so you can't wait for no one else to motivate you. You got to get motivated yourself. You got to get alone. You got to walk the lot, clear your head, go home, do something different, change something up in order to be able to get back into that fire, into that groove, into that steady Freddy. And that's always my encouragement. And I think a lot of it is that the voices in our head that get into us and then start messing with us, especially when we're down. It's easy to entertain negativity when we're down. Okay. It's a better man or better woman is best when they can encourage themselves and look up instead of looking down and getting ready for the next. And so that's always been my motivational piece there, and trying to just self-encouragement, man,
So let me ask you about, the guy who's not the steady Freddy, as you call him, somebody who's just, what I call, a negative Nancy, or, negative Ned, I guess, if you want to call him that. So somebody who has that kind of just bad attitude, because, we're a big part Billy's book, and we talk about the art of text message selling, have a great attitude, make the big offer, be fast or you're dead. All those things apply to being in car sales, person to person. Straight ahead with somebody. You want to make them the big offer. You got to have the positive attitude. You want to service the customer quickly. So all three of those, whether they're texting or in person, all three of those apply. So how do you try to win somebody back, if you will, from the dark side? Try to get them back onto the positive side of the team. How long? First of all, how do you do it, and how long do you give them before you just kind of go, I got to cut my losses?
Yeah, I think there is, you need to begin to, number one, as a manager, you look at someone like that, and I love the fact of being able to chart someone's activity, and not just in numbers, but in attitude, and be able to just really have a personal note, whether it's a personal note in your phone or personal note in your notebook or whatever you're doing, and start charting so you can actually see how this person has acted, or how they behaved and what they're doing there. It's almost like an employee file, but it's really your coaching file. And then be able to determine whether this is a pattern. Is this a continual pattern? Is this a continual behavior? I know people like this, Paul, and I call them always, I say this all the time, they're good people, but, right? And so it's the but part there that you're asking them to deliver something that they may not be capable of delivering themselves. And now, a lot of us feel like because we can fix a lot of problems, we can fix people. Okay. And I wish that we all could. All right. And I know that you probably do, or some of the best managers wish they could fix everybody. But sometimes we just have to come to the conclusion, after measuring the amount of time, whether someone's fit for this or they're not fit for it. Some people may be going through some personal issues,
right?
That they're dealing with. And sometimes, honestly, they've never seen a pattern in their own raising or their own childhood or growing up that they hadn't really seen people really do what we do. And so being able to pull them to the side and be able to look at them from a different perspective and being able to coach that upward sometimes does help, getting into more of a personal mentor role than just a boss. But again, I mean, I'm on a 90-day dude. I'm a 90-day guy when it comes to that stuff. And I can find in 90 days whether you've got a bunch of positives or a bunch of negatives. And I have to be able to cut my losses when it comes to the bunch of negatives if I can't figure out where you're coming from, what you're doing.
Well, actually, that was my next question, was going to be, so how long do you give somebody if they're struggling? So 90 days. And I think that's probably a pretty standard answer, whether it's at a car dealership or any type of job. I think it's long enough to give the person the opportunity to succeed or to fail, whichever may be the case, of each individual. In fact, I was talking this morning with a couple of our employees about, there's also, you have to look at, there's some God-given gifts. People are, good at certain things. I mean, and so you have one person that might be just inherently good at things, so I'll just say public speaking. Okay. I mean, I worked in radio for a long time, so obviously speaking for me was not difficult. So it kind of just came to me. And so again, a God-given gift versus someone else who can practice, who can read books, they can take courses, they can practice, they can read books, and they may never, and I'm not bragging here, I'm just using myself as an example, they may never get to be as good of a speaker, as me, where, then again, flip it, I may not be able to, be as good of a car salesman, as someone else, no matter how hard I try, how much time, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's kind of you have to look at yourself a little bit and realize, first of all, if you're giving your all, I mean, because if you're not giving your all, then you can't really give a fair assessment to yourself. So if you're giving your all, then you look at what am I good at? What am I able to catch on? And can I do this job? Do I want to do this job? And then do I want to move forward in this job? I think all those questions need to be answered by the individual to decide if they want to move forward. Don't you agree?
I totally agree. And I think that it's our job too, and duty and responsibility that we look at them as an asset, whether it's going to be someone else's asset, so if they're people's people, and the most valuable resource on this planet is people, not gold, not silver, people. And so what I have to do, and you have to do, and all of us need to realize when we got people working underneath us, and if we do realize that they're not suited for the position that we placed them in, then where could they? Maybe it's in our organization, maybe it's not in our organization. If it's not in our organization, then we can coach them and even assist them to get to an organization where their gift could thrive at. And now we don't become the guy that fired them. We actually become the guy that helped them. And I think that's people's people. The day you say yes to an employee, we can't just be so anxious to say no to them when they're failing at what we thought they were going to do. We got to be able to say, hand them off. I love the analogy of the relay. I've got this little thing here. This is my little tripod, but in the Olympics, it's the relay race. So there's a team effort, and you got to hand the baton off, right? And so I've got this baton in my hand. It's actually my tripod here. I got this baton in my hand. And so I have this employee that I put in my hand, okay, because I said yes to them. So this is valuable because they're valuable. I don't want to drop them, okay? I don't want to handicap them. I don't want to put them out on the street. I got to make sure that where I go them. One of the greatest lessons I ever saw this happen, and it dealt with something with me early on. I remember one time I made a foolish decision, Paul. I mean, foolish. When I tell you foolish could be, all right? And my boss came to me, the owner. My boss came to me and my owner, and he said, Tim, I'm gonna have to let you go because company policy is not going to be able to allow you to stay on here. But he didn't kick me out, Paul. He called a friend of his who actually owned another store, and said, I've got a great employee here, and I need somewhere for him to go. And actually, I ended up, Paul, getting a promotion out of that. That was my first GSM job that I ever got. And it was because of my owner handled me properly. He didn't drop me because I made a foolish decision. He knew the asset. He knew who I was. He knew the type of person I was. He knew I made a mistake, but he also knew that he couldn't keep me because of what I'd done. So what he done, he handed me off. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me because I saw, number one, that he cared for me. Number two, that it then blessed me. And then I end up working for an amazing organization that are still great friends and clients of mine today. And I think that that's how you handle it. I think you got to be able to see where you can place them instead of just saying, we need you for this. It's not working out. How, what can I do with you? How can I help you? Because you're great. And who knows down the road where you're going to be. And me and this particular gentleman are still best friends today. We do business together. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? I think it is. I mean, I've hatcheted a few folks. I've got really upset at times at how people have done some things. I've had to go back and look at it differently. But again, like I'm teaching y'all today, I feel like that's a great piece that I've saw and how I was handled too.
That's a really good point when you say that when you have to let somebody go, it's not necessarily a negative. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I've had to do that in my years of management too. You just, for whatever reasons, maybe, like you said, maybe it was a bad decision. Maybe they're just not up to par, with their skill level, things like that. And, I've said for a long time, I'm like, there might be people out there that enjoy firing somebody or letting somebody go. I'm not one of those people. I mean, whether they deserved it or not, it's still, it's a rough day for me when I got to let somebody go, because I do take it personal. I do care about the employees that work under me and they become, let's face it, you spend a lot of time with the people you work with. So they really become like family members, So
I'm with you. And I am my wife and those close to me, executive people that work for me, they'll say, man, you will hang on to somebody as long as you possibly can. And I said, yeah, I struggle with that fact. And again, but again, like I said earlier, I've kind of learned how to, be able to hand these particular people off now instead of just drop them. And you never know who you're going to drop. I think that's you never. A lot of times we don't really understand someone's potential. Sometimes the transition is actually the blessing. I
Right.
told that particular person all the time. I said, one of the greatest things you ever done was let me go. It was one of the greatest things he had ever done was to let me go, because it then ushered me into and pushed me into another aspect of my purpose, which now I'm walking in today. And if had not that ever happened, I wouldn't be who I am today. So I think it's imperative that how we hand off people is we're to do it the right way. I think that's a big piece, and
We're
we
we're
both
a big
we help each other now. So
Absolutely. And here at Billy Merritt Marketing, I mean, we're real big on training. We do Grant Cardone training, and we're always talking about trying to do better and never being complacent and settling, all that kind of stuff. So we're always trying to better our employees, not only in their workplace, but in their lives. Because, it is connected. People, you can say, oh, it's just business, but business does affect personal. Personal does affect business, whether we like to or not. I mean, it just does. And so, I always have to look at things going, hey, you mentioned earlier, somebody might be having something personal that's going on. So you have to take that into consideration and help somebody when they need help personally, help somebody when they need something professionally as well. And by the way, before I forget, I do want to, Ray Mucci, one of our cohorts, if you will, said Happy New Year and said hello to us, and right back at you, Ray.
Yes, sir.
And
Same here.
Caleb and John Fairchild, they've all, put some comments on there. So hello to those boys. Well, no, they're not boys, they're gentlemen. Maybe not gentlemen either. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding though. They're good guys, all good guys. And thanks for tuning in today. But when you have, so Tim, when you're at a dealership, if you're in a management role and you get somebody who's never sold cars, okay, they just hear about, everybody always hears about you make pretty good money selling cars. That's what everybody always talks about is the money when they haven't sold cars. That's what they always talk about. So what would you say to somebody straight off the street and they say, hey, I want to sell cars? What would be, I'm kind of put you on the spot here a little bit, but what would be a couple of the positives that you would say? And let's be honest, there's definitely some negatives when it comes to certain things. So what would be some things you would warn somebody that wants to get in the car business? What would you say?
Yeah. So I just had this happen the other day. I had a gentleman, a good friend of mine called me, and his daughter's boyfriend, who is like 19 years old, he wants to get in the automobile business, and he wanted me to call him and kind of, talk to him about what's he going to get himself involved in,
Sure.
So, and I said, one of the pieces is that, if you're going to do this, number one, I talk about the positives. Obviously, this is the only business literally that you can take and earn so much cash, and you can put cash in your pocket real fast. All it takes is some effort and some work and some sacrifice. But that last word is sacrifice, is that you have to be willing to be able to turn your life into a working machine. And so it's the dedication, it's the being on time, it's the working on Saturdays, right? I remember I got out of the Air Force. I was fresh out of the Air Force. And so I wanted to get in the car business. And then I realized after that first 2-3 months that my weekends were done, right? I was no more a weekend dude. So meaning that I could not go run with my friends. I couldn't be out partying all the time. I couldn't be going to the concert on Saturday afternoon at the open pavilion. None of that stuff was going down with me because I was in the automotive business and I wanted to succeed. And so I had to know that. Actually, it was really good for me at that time, but it's sacrificial. And I think that's the piece of it. And you got to be able to know that every day is game day. So you can't hide in a cubicle somewhere. You can't just go be a loner all by yourself. You got to be in front of people all the time. And so you evaluate people's personalities. And so what kind of personality are you? Are you a type A? Do you like to get out there and run? Do you like to get out there in front of people? Do you have a lot of energy? Do you enjoy conversation? Do you enjoy people? Right. And so, but it's the sacrifice, man. Listen, I've never met a part-time salesperson make a bunch of money.
Right.
But it's the sacrifice. And there are very few folks that I can sit here and say who have used the car business connected to me that really, I'm going to say a few. There's a few folks out of a group of guys that I watched get into the business. There's only a few left still in the business.
Yeah.
Those ones still in the business are making more money than the ones now today that jumped out of it. All right. And they're making good money for themselves, their families, they're putting their kids through college. And they've got great lives. I mean, I think that's, Paul, and every one of them will tell you that they never could have done what they've done, what they never could have made what they've made in the automotive business, doing something of trade or something else that maybe someone else was going to give them. The car business became a way of life for them, and it has to become a way of life. You got to breathe this stuff. You got to get in it. You got to live it, love it. It's got to be a part of you. You got to, you got to breathe it in, breathe it out kind of deal. You got to go home, you got stay up late trying to deprogram the day and what you got working. You'll wake up ready to plan the day. You're ready to go after it again. That's the stuff right there. And again, you can still have a life. You can still have a family. Your friends are going to be very limited. You're not going to have a bunch of friends. You can have one or two friends. Good, probably to find a friend in the car business, right? So, but that's it, and then they have to be willing to make that decision. And listen, I'll say this again. I've got 4 friends of mine that got in the car business the same time as I did. All right. And these guys are still in it. There may have been 20 of them that we knew that got into it, and only 4 of them stuck with it. And over the last 24 years are still doing it. They're very successful in what they do. And they're closers. Okay. They're not order takers. These guys are closers, and meaning that they're that type A, and that's where you make your money in the car business. You got to really work on crafting your closing skills. And when you become a closer, you become one of the best assets in the automotive business. You can write your own ticket. You can get your own checks when you become that kind of person. And that's the deal with the car business. Learn to close. The day you learn to close, that you can do anything in the automotive business.
I think that is a perfect way to wrap up the show, Tim. Those 3 words: learn to close. That's a huge step in the car business. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I firmly, Paul, agree. And if I could speak on that real quick before we close.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the big, when I got into it, I watched, my cousin was an F&I guy. And so I had an insight there, but I had some really good people around me too that I could watch. And I had some older car guys that really could master that. They just had these little small techniques that they used. And then I began to, and we didn't have the Cardone series and the education. Then it was on the asphalts where you learn the craft. Sure. Right. And so these guys really began to, I watched them and I studied them, and it's an art to it. And I teach this even where I go in dealerships around the country. Just the other day, I was down in Fort Lauderdale at Sawgrass, and I was in Tampa the other day. And any store I go into, whether Atlanta, anywhere, I get me a couple young salespeople, and we sit there and I have a conversation with them, and I talk about how this business can make you money. And then I talk about the art of the close. I said, there is a very easy art to learn, but it is pattern thinking. You just got to learn how to maneuver and how to steer. Okay. You're driving the deal. No one else is driving it for you. You got to know that you're behind the wheel of every car deal. Okay. So when a person shows up and they've got a dog and they're just walking the lot, they don't really want to buy nothing today. You got to get behind the driver's seat. Okay. You can't let them drive you around that car lot. You got to drive them around the car lot. You take control of that deal, then you become the closer. And I think that's the key, whether it's text messaging, whether it's a phone call, you got to drive the deal. The day you drive the deal, the day the deal closes. And you understand that type of mentality, and a good, and just you don't have to have a lot of knowledge, just enough knowledge to be able to steer that to an appointment, to a close, to a pencil, to a nodding of the head. You got to get there. You got to drive the deal. Don't let them tell you what they want to do. You tell them what we're going to do. And that's where it lies. And it is, and you do it nicely. Obviously, that's how I've mastered mine. I'm never aggressive outwardly. I'm inwardly aggressive, but never outwardly to the customer aggressive. And I come across, and we should always come across as polite and honest and sincere. And you can do it with honesty. A great closer does it as honest can be. This is what these are the numbers, and this is the best deal going today, right? And you can do that. But it's all about taking control. Listen, if you don't take control of your life, somebody else will take control of it. Okay. If you don't take control of your deal, someone else is going to take control of it. Okay. Someone down the street is going to sell the car for you. Okay. And you're not going to get paid for it. You might as well take control of every opportunity that sits in front of you and close the deal. Don't let it go till it closes.
Holy moly. That was fantastic, Tim. I just got to give you that kudos. That was awesome. We got to make sure we use that as a clip. Got to go back and listen to that right there. He was just spitting out knowledge right there. Tim McCarn, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Happy New Year, my friend, to you and yours, and hopefully a very successful 2021 for you.
Same here, Paul. Keep rocking, baby.
Yeah, we will. And don't forget that tomorrow we'll have Feel Good Friday here at 11 o'clock. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great, happy New Year and a very safe New Year's Eve. If you're going to be drinking, make sure you're not driving. Be responsible. Enjoy yourself. But again, be smart about it. So we'll see you tomorrow on Feel Good Friday. Take care.